I want to start off by, this could be really, opening the floor to what a choice is. What is a choice? What constitutes what I'm calling it a deliberate choice? This is my own terminology that I have to explain, and here's how it works. So, presumably, I like to explain it like this. There are mental acts of choice, mental choices that one can make. There are physical, I guess you can call them, choices that one can make. And these are very different. And neither one alone constitutes your well-being. Oh, constitutes a choice, which would inherently constitute your well-being. Very easy way to explain this. Imagine you sit down. Imagine I sit down, and I need a little rest. And I'm sitting here deliberating about all these things that I could do, and I'm making all these mental choices. Like, yeah, I'm gonna mow my lawn. I'm gonna do my homework. I'm gonna do all these things. I'm gonna plan out my day. And then I don't do them. You know what I'm saying? Like, it would be hard to say that you really made a choice about those things. And it's certainly not a choice that is constituent of your well-being. If you're just sitting there deciding in your head to do all these things and never actually act on them, right? That would be really strange to say that somehow could contribute to your well-being. I mean, in fact, I don't think a person who, armchair philosophers are, they probably aren't happy people. That's very true, at least. Also, there's these other choices that are solely physical acts that we wouldn't really call them choices either. The easiest way to capture this idea is imagine you're going to the doctor's office and they got the little things called kaleidoscopes, things that they hit you with a knee with. They make you.
No, yeah.
Kaleidoscopes? No, that's the air thing.
Yeah.
I should have probably looked this up before I did this. But you know, those things that they.
The little hammer.
The little hammers, exactly. The little hammers that they hit your knee with to get a reflex out of you. Reflexive actions are obviously not choices that you've made, right? They're just ways your body moved, ways your body can move. They're just reactions. And so reactions, in my view, are not choices. Because there's really there's not enough deliberation. There's not enough, there's no mental choice being made. And similarly, when you make mental choices, there's no physical choice being made. And so there has to be some synthesis of these two things in order for not even a deliberate choice, but just a choice to be made at all. So a choice, you can just see it as the synthesis, times maybe, plus, might be more appropriate. It would be the synthesis of these two things would constitute a choice to begin with. That's not so radical. You know, it's not so strange to think. But there also seems like there's this whole list of actions that you can do that seem, in my view, you never make a choice about things. So imagine you're upstairs, let's say you have a 2-floor house, and you're upstairs in your bedroom, and you say, I want some ice cream. And you go downstairs, and you take some time, and then you get the ice cream, and then you put it to your lips. You don't go again, I want some ice cream, and then eat it, right? That would be strange. But at the same time, when you're eating the ice cream, you're making a physical act with no mental act. You're just eating it. Well, it's like, where's the choice? Seems like you never made a choice in that scenario. You made a mental choice earlier, and now you made a physical choice in the present. So there's no choice made. Well, another aspect of choices that I think we have to understand is, I call them floating choice. They float. Choices float. Which means you can, I'm not going to actually write this down, I'm just going to explain it. You can make some mental choice at some time x, and then a physical, which corresponds to some physical choice at time x1, so some later time. And they, in virtue of you making a choice, mental choices exist over some temporal time. They exist over time. Not always, but in some cases.
So what you're saying is that choices occur at nodes, and that choices don't have a consistent property, but the effects of a choice can last for.
Yes.
No. Okay.
They're not nodes. So there's no nodes like. So to understand, yeah, exactly. There's no like single point. Let's say this is a time of your life. There's no single point where you're making a choice. Usually, like you said, it's like nodes. You made a mental choice here, then a physical choice here, and they correspond in some strange way. Unexplainable way, probably, but you know they correspond. It seems very intuitive that they respond. It seems very intuitive that when you said, I want some ice cream, and then got the ice cream, that you certainly made a choice about getting ice cream. Okay.
Can I interject with a question? What if I am making a decision, so I'm going downstairs, I'm going to get some ice cream, and then I get it out of the fridge, and I'm like, never mind, I didn't want ice cream, but like,
yes.
I made a bad call, I was thinking about yogurt or something like
that. Yeah.
What's my yogurt?
Happens to me a lot, actually. They're pretty common.
What if you open the fridge and you see something else?
Yeah.
Snake.
Oh, I meant like you saw a cake, and you're like, oh, never mind.
That's actually, I actually write about this on paper, and it seems kind of like, why would you write about it? I write about this in my paper, and I used almost that exact example. Like you get something, you want something else. So you get downstairs and you see something else, and you're like, oh, I want something else. Well, yeah, choices can be interrupted.
Or you don't have ice cream.
Or you don't have.
Or you, oh, that's a whole
Hey, you
other
don't have
issue.
ice cream.
Well, then you have to make a choice of whether or not to get out.
Yeah,
go get it.
So choices can be interrupted. For instance, and I like to, the most important feature about interrupted choices is that imagine a choice you made when you were like 8, like, I want to be a fireman. And then you never actually became a fireman, a firewoman, fire person. Is the most appropriate.
Firefighter.
Yeah, fighter.
That's usually what they call it.
Fire. I'm a single fire person.
Get out the
I
fire.
don't want to fight the fire. I just want to go away a little bit. You know? Choices can be interrupted. And what I mean by that is, you can have these choices, these mental choices that you can make that interrupt other mental choices. Pretty simple, right? We think that that's a very common, intuitive to our experience. Yep, that happens. So choice interruption. There are all sorts of. So I'm trying to run this fast because I don't want to take up all the time. I want some more discussion to be had. But so in my view, there are all these other. There's a lot of them. I put them on paper. There are a lot of things that that constitute what makes a deliberate choice. But at the end of the day, just to briefly go over it, because I want to really go back to relate this back to fulfillment and how that works, is that in general, so you want to have control. I mean, you might want to have control over your choices. Like for instance, if an alien somehow controlled your mind and your body to make you make a mental choice and make you make a physical choice, it doesn't seem like that should constitute a choice because you didn't want to do it. You know what I'm saying? Like, they made me do it. That doesn't seem like to constitute a choice. And I agree. I don't think that should constitute a choice. So there's some level of things you can control. You have control of your choices. There are all these other parameters that constitute what I inevitably calling a deliberate choice, and I can show you my paper if you're interested more in this. But I don't want to spend too much time. I just wanted to go and show that there are things that don't constitute choice, and in virtue of you not fulfilling all these conditions, you're actually not fulfilled. You're not fulfilled. That's the end of the discussion. Now, this can be flexible. This is not necessarily true for every being, but for most of these things they stand as true. Okay, so let's go back to I want to actually talk about this ice cream example. Going down to get the ice cream and then there not being ice cream there. In virtue of you making a mental choice in the act of you walking down the stairs, I would like to argue that even if there was no ice cream there, this is what separates me from the desire fulfillment view, your choice is fulfilled. You carried out your mental act, your mental choice. And in virtue of you carrying out your mental act, you doing what it is that you wanted to do, and in virtue of you having control over that mental act, you fulfilled your choice. Your choice fulfillment was actually satisfied. Now, this is strange, because it's like, wait a second, I don't have the ice cream. I'm not happy.
Ice cream.
Yeah. Well, in the same way that the desire fulfillment views said that it's not about the experiential happiness of getting the ice cream, in choice fulfillment views, it's not about the experiential notion of you're not happy about choosing. It's not about the ice cream at all, in fact. It's not about your happiness at all.
Not about you.
It's about the fulfillment of your choice, and that you actually desire, in virtue of what you are, or some other explanatory fact. I don't posit any explanatory of why you desire or anything like that. But in virtue of you desiring to make a choice, there's this element in your life. And that might seem kind of strange.
So wait, so it's more that you desired to make the choice to have ice cream and you did, and not the path that you actually got the ice cream.
Right.
Okay.
You desire to make some deliberate choice.
And you did make that choice, even if it wasn't a fulfilled choice. Okay.
No, even if it wasn't yes.
Yeah.
You didn't have the ice cream.
Yes.
So it's still a fulfilled choice.
Yeah,
that's
you're
what's
still
strange.
fulfilled
It could
by
be
the
a fulfilled choice without acquiring
Yeah.
the thing that the
Yeah.
choice is about.
Yes.
So for instance, now that might seem strange, but I like to maybe make it more accessible to our understanding. Imagine myself, I choose that I'm going to live a life of being anti-racist. I want to combat racism. And I have this mental choice that I made, and I'm like, yep, this is going to go over time until I die. And so I have all these physical choices that I make to try to fulfilling these in my day-to-day life over the course of however long I live. Probably not long if I'm fighting anti-racism. I would like to say that even though at the end of the day, racism was still alive and well, institutional or otherwise, whatever it was when I was fighting, I could have lived a well life.
I live with someone who says that to me every day, every week. That's why I'm laughing.
Now, if that doesn't make you feel any better about this fulfillment theory, then all right. But
even if racism continued to exist, you could still feel like you made a difference. You could still feel like you moved it forwards.
yes, but that feeling is not what constitutes your well-being, is what I would say. And this might, again, seem very strange to people. Because what I'm saying is, you can basically be otherwise unhappy, deeply unhappy, and still be like, I lived a well life. And that's strange to people. It's hard for people to really understand that phenomenon. I think it happens a lot. Maybe it doesn't happen in our lives because we live in like a first world country. We have this luxury of, generally it's hard to, unless you're at the bottom of the society, it's generally hard to live a life that has so much displeasure. It's just unbearable. But and I'm not going to go into that. That's not the point I want to make. I just essentially want to make this point that experiential happiness itself alone, I can live a life full of wrought with pain, and at the end of the day, I can be like, I'm okay with this. Like I feel well off about my life. And if you ask me, I would say so. And I don't think that you should be able to say to some person, no, you don't. I think that, and I try to justify that person by saying, well, yeah, they do, and it's because of choice fulfillment theory. These people are actually well off, and this is why. And in fact, what made me really go this route and think of this was a phenomenon, what I like to call the best and the worst. And I call it the best and the worst because I don't think these lives there is a best and the worst, and you might think that one is better than the other, and I'm leaving it up to you to decide. Maybe you think they're both bad. But imagine the life of the CEO you're the CEO who got everything. You're at the very top of society. Even you're super happy. And you might even say you're super happy. Like you have a lot of pleasure in your life at least. Like you can just buy pleasures, like dopamine. Like you know what I'm saying. You can just buy laughing gas. Like, that's how much pleasure you have. You can just buy it. That's how rich you are. That's where you're at in society. I want to say that's a possible life, and that person can be both. Feel like his life is well off, or her life is well off, and not. In this case, Lucy. And I also want to say that you can live a life of total austerity. Maybe you decided, I want to be a Buddhist, and you said, I want to go all the way with this, and you went to go live in the mountains, and your life of seclusion and austerity, meaning that you give all away your worldly possessions, and you're doing all this stuff, so you're living almost in juxtaposition to the CEO life, and still live a well life, and not. And I think what a theory that's going to account, and I think the only theory that's going to account, I don't even think desire fulfillment theories can account for this, and I write about that on my paper. The only theory that's going to account for such a phenomenon, to imagine a person who lives in complete austerity who's well off, and a person who lives in the lack of luxury and is not, is a theory of well-being that considers choice fulfillment. At the very least considers it. Maybe doesn't take the answer to the conceptual question to be fulfillment. Maybe you still think the answer to the conceptual question is pleasure, but it's going to, and maybe you're an objective list theorist and you have all these things. I would say you have, no matter who you are, if you're a hedonist or not, an objectivist theorist, or you believe in eudaimonia, or something like that, you're going to have to put choice fulfillment on your list in virtue of that phenomenon. Was there questions about that? I see some hands.
Yeah. But like, even if a Buddhist, like, decides to live a life of austerity and like goes and lives on a shack in a mountain or something, like, there's still, like, yes, they don't have the physical experiences of like eating cake and stuff, but there's still a mental or spiritual or emotional fulfillment that they feel. There's still an avoidance of pain and a move towards some pleasure.
So not fulfillment, but pleasure, as you're talking about. I think they're separate.
Well, no, but I'm saying, like, I think fulfillment is tied to
Pleasure.
Yeah.
And, I think my view, like I said, I like to leave it open. I like to say that hedonists can have it. Like, what I'm saying, they can have the answer to the conceptual question. I think they should still consider choice fulfillment theory, is what I would say, if you think that that's, like, those things are intrinsically linked, fulfillment and pleasure. Like, they can't be separate. They're definitely the same thing. One inheres in the other. They don't exist as their own intrinsic entities. If that's how you feel, if that's your intuitive response, in fact, if you made the choice for that to be the case, like, yeah, I'm going to believe this, I'm like, you should make that choice and you should carry that choice out in your day-to-day life. You should meaning you should carry out, like, when you make choices, you should do them because they make you happy. That's what and you should live like that. And I think what would constitute your wellness, in my view, from my perspective, would still not be your happiness. It would be the fact that you chose that life, and your answer would be like, nah, it'd be my happiness that I got from my choices. And I'm like, okay, that's fine. Because no matter what because and this is the thing, this is the great thing about the choice fulfillment theory, it's very flexible. You can say to me, no, Ali, that's wrong, I choose this to be the answer, and I'm going to live like this. And I'm going to say, good, because that fulfills your choice, and you should absolutely do that. So it's really hard to be wrong with this view. No, it's not true. Actually, there's a lot of objections to it, and I write about them extensively also in my paper, so if you're interested in that, I'll be willing to share that with you if you'd like. I actually want to open the floor to questions. I think conversation is much more important than me didactically speaking to you about my theory.
I have a legitimate question.
Yes.
Okay. In this case, how would you describe the experience of fulfillment?
Yeah. So, I mean, I don't think there's a pleasurable notion to the experience of fulfillment. For instance, to explain, I use that actually. I talk about that on my paper. When you make a mental and physical choice, like a deliberate choice that consists inheres in all of these other features. When you make this deliberate choice, you're not actually getting any pleasure from your choice ever. You never get pleasure from making a choice. You can make tons of choices in your life, and you'll never get pleasure from making them. That's what I argued in one of my points. I don't think that's true. I actually had objections to that in my paper, and I wrote about, like, no, some people can receive pleasure from their choices that they make. Like you can feel good about the choice you make. Like, I gave to charity. I feel good about that, right? So, but I think that what I would say, what I end up writing later on is that if that's the case, then that's actually not you didn't make a choice, most likely. Because you probably were influenced by some phenomenon that's very external to you that made you feel pleasure from making a choice. And it's really the choice itself intrinsically is what led to your fulfillment, not the happiness you got from making it. But I seen your hand over here first. So.
Okay, so on a similar question. So let's go back to the cake example. Okay, so I want the cake, and then I go downstairs and I look and it's not there. The cake's not there, right? You would still say that my choice was fulfilled. Is that correct?
Yes.
Is it because of the fact that I went and sought it out that makes it fulfilled? Like, what constitutes what is fulfilled or not?
Well, what constitutes fulfillment, and one way to sum up these additional points, it has to come from you. It has
has to come from me.
Yes, has to come from you, and it has to also fulfill these other conditions that that I've already laid out in conversation here. But when I say it comes from you, that is something people have a very hard time with. Because like, wait a second, comes from me? Nothing comes from me. There is no me. They have all these like, metaphysical, like, no, I don't even exist. You know what I'm saying? I'm just a collection of atoms, and it's like, whoa. All right, we're going down a very. But when I say comes from you, I don't. At least in my paper, I don't write about the metaphysical you. I just simply mean, think of. I try to make it very intuitive to people. Like, it seems like, without outlining what the universe is like and get into metaphysics, it seems like there's some agent that is you that can make choices. It seems like, and they come from you, namely the agent. Then they can be externally influenced, but there's also these choices that can come from you that are not externally influenced. Proof, as an example of that is, it seems like I can be, my society, I can live in a society that like loves meat and it can make me eat all this meat, but it seems like I could have also said, nope, not eating it, regardless of what my external society told me to do, and not done it. And it seems like that choice, now you could say that no, that choice came from the fact that you've seen this vegetarian walking down the street and you're like, I want to live like them. Then it was externally related, but it seems like you can also make that choice out of nowhere. And I like to call this the first vegetarian. I use the color was in my paper. The first vegetarian, in my view, I want to say that it had to come from nowhere. Now that's very hard metaphysical claim to make, and I don't want to get into the metaphysics of it.
Yeah,
I just want to.
I'm not going to get into the metaphysics.
Yeah.
I just want to ask my question in another way. So, let's say the person who wanted the cake, they didn't act on it, like they didn't go out and look in the fridge.
They would be
could it still be fulfilled, or would it? Okay.
No.
Okay. So it has to come out in an action.
Yeah. Huh?
So the choice has to come out in action.
There has to be a physical choice correlated with it. Yeah. If you make all these mental choices and you don't ever act on it, you're going to live a very unfulfilled life. Similarly, if you make all these physical choices, and this is when I say about coming from you, if you're just influenced by your parents, your society at large, some external forces, and all of your life external forces are pushing you to make all these physical choices that you never make yourself, just like the knee example, then you just fulfilled a bunch of physical choices without any mental ones, and you just lived also an unfulfilled life. And I think, now what I'd like to, after this discussion, maybe right now, I want to talk about, that's what I think American society is very much, most societies are very much like. They have all these people making these physical choices, and being very responsive to things, external realities, and never any mental ones. That's not to say that you don't make mental choices in your life.
Right.
You do,
Yeah.
just, maybe the answer is not enough. Oh wow, there's a lot of hands.
Yeah.
I seen yours a lot earlier, so I'm gonna 1, 2.
I think Dan had it
Okay,
first.
1, 2, 3, 4. Sorry,
Yeah.
that's a good 5. Sorry.
Well, earlier you said if there was someone who really, really hated having choices and someone came along and said, okay, I'm just going to plan out your entire life for you, henceforth you have no choice, and you said they'd still have to choose that in order to be fulfilled.
They would?
Well, I'm still not sold on that. If they really hate choices so much, then why would that matter to them?
Hate choices so much, why would it matter to them?
Yeah.
Why does it matter?
They still have to choose to allow that.
Yeah, the point is they have to choose to allow it. So let's say like you came out the womb and you had like all cognitive abilities. You came out the womb and you're like, I want everyone to choose everything from me from now on. And then you're like, that's final for the rest of my life. You made a mental choice at the beginning of your life that you wanted everything chosen for you, and I would say you lived a well life if everyone controlled your life with that. Like if you lived the life of a slave, I know it sounds like really messed up, but if you lived the life of a complete slave, but you made that mental choice when you popped out the womb, yeah, that would be you lived a well life. Yep, and that's a consequence. Maybe that's a consequence to some people of my theory, but I don't think it necessarily is. I think I think you said, like you say, there are lots of people who like to make all. Barry Schwartz talks about the paradox of choice, like having too many choices, and sometimes you don't want to make so many choices, and I think that's very human. Like a lot of us do that. Like I don't want to. That's hard. I don't want to make the choice. You made the choice for me.
So you're saying it doesn't matter if you make a physical choice to be a slave as long as you make a mental choice?
No. The physical choice is actually following through with what everyone's saying. If you made a mental choice to be a slave, and then you were like, and then someone told you what to do, and you're like, I'm not doing that, then you didn't fulfill your choice fulfillment theory.
So what if the very moment this person is born, someone comes, slaps chains on him, and says, okay, you're a slave now? Then they're not making a physical choice.
Or a mental one.
Or yeah.
Yeah, but they wouldn't be making any.
Well, if they wanted to be a slave anyway, then they would be making a mental one.
But when you're a slave, you can't have fulfillment because it's not about you. You're not a person. All you're doing is fulfilling other people's things. So you
Well,
have to fulfill the mental and physical choices of someone else.
What if that's what you want to do?
When you're a slave and your chains are slapped on you from the day you're born, I don't think anyone wants to be a slave. Why do you think the Jews left Egypt so quickly?
Well, that is a very, very, very bold claim, because there are more than 7 billion people alive right now, and there have been many more billions who have been alive, and you're making an assumption that should apply to every single last one of them.
And there actually are people who enjoy being slaves.
Yeah, in a
Yeah,
sensual
Yeah, there are.
sense.
No,
Like, there are people who enjoy being enslaved.
I just want to rein this back a little bit.
Yeah,
I don't want to make this necessarily about slavery. Maybe that was a really barbaric thing to make this about. It's not necessarily about my slavery in its. That's obviously an extreme. Philosophers like using extreme examples in order to capture the actual idea. But the idea is that the more intuitive understanding is that in your life there are tons of times where you want someone else to make a choice for you. That happens. Like I remember one time my mom was like, "Oh, what do you want for dinner?" I was like, please choose for me. And she did, and I would say that went to my choice of, that went to my fulfillment of my choice. I made a mental choice that she choose for me. Then I was like, I'm not gonna move. I'm not gonna like interrupt my mom. Like, no, give me that. I want the chicken. Like, I didn't make any physical choices. Like, in virtue of me not interrupting the physical process of her cooking, that was a physical choice of me, basically, namely me not moving. So that would make that a choice.
All right, so are you saying it's impossible for anyone to just never want a choice ever?
That's what I'm saying. Yeah, that's exactly. And that might be a consequence of my view. Maybe you think that's weird. Like, what? Everyone desires to have a choice? Yes, that's what I say right in the beginning. S desires to make a choice. That's line 1. If you think that there are people who don't, there are entities and beings, who don't desire to make a choice, then I would probably say I just have to reject that. Everyone will.
So are you saying if there was a person like that, they wouldn't actually be a person, just an entity?
So this is where it gets into metaphysics. I don't think, I'm a little weird. I don't think there are any entities, even atoms, that don't desire to make a choice.
Well, if animals do it, like, should I or should I not kill this other animal?
Now, that might seem like strange. Like, what? Atoms with desires? What are you talking about? Yeah, it's really weird. Don't. It's not.
That's a whole nother.
Desire to bond,
That's another.
like
another.
electrons and stuff.
So, you say that the physical choice, the act of making your choice, is really important. So, what would someone who has no ability, who has the ability to make a mental choice, but not the ability to then like move their body to make the physical choice, where would they stand in your theory?
That's a good question. I actually talk about this in my paper. So you might have, like you said, a person who can, does everyone understand, can make mental choices, but have the physical incapabilities of carrying out physical choices. This is going to get kind of strange, and this is why. You have to really understand, so this is where physical starts to get really abstract. Okay? So when I explained physical choices to you earlier, I was talking about like very simple things to understand, but people who have the luxury and the privilege of being able to some degree can make them. But understand that in my view, I have this understanding that we're all disabled for in some way. So for instance, I may have the choice to fly. And let's say I live in the 1500s and I cannot fly, right? I think, what do I do now? What happens? Then that would be a case where those are choices that could not be fulfilled because of the epoch, the technical epochs of the time. They can't be fulfilled. And I think my theory, I actually talk about this a lot, and I think that's why we should employ our efforts on a moral issue to make everyone more able, including like we made ourselves more able by building planes. We made ourselves more able by moving cars. Someone desired to move at the speed of 70 miles per hour. They had a choice that they wanted to move at 70. They made a choice that they had a desire.
And then you build something to allow them to.
So I basically kind of bite the bullet again and say there are tons of choices that mental choices that we make that will go unfulfilled. That doesn't mean we will live unfulfilled lives, like we will be generally dissatisfied, because there are so many other choices that weigh against it. Then I read my whole paper about weighing, like how do you weigh? That's actually very difficult. And that might be something you guys are interested in, like how do you weigh, like okay, I had 3 choices that were fulfilled and 1 choice that wasn't. Does that make me I live a fulfilled life? The answer is no. And I end up saying, like, it's just difficult to try to say that.
Yeah, I have two questions. So, with the cake thing, like, say you decide you want a cake, and then you sit there for like 5 minutes, and then you change your mind and you decide you no longer want the cake. Would that be a choice interruption?
Yeah, it'd be a choice interruption.
Okay. And also, like, what role does instincts play?
Are you talking about, when you say instincts, do you mean like, let's say I have a certain genetic makeup that makes me want to choose certain things?
No, like just basic instincts. Like, you know.
Like breathe.
Oh, like let's say something's flying at me like a baseball and I go like this.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, this is very interesting. So yeah, actually I believe it's my theory too. It's the baseball example. I call that a physical choice, and it seems like there was no mental choice made. It didn't seem like the baseball was flying at you, and then you were like, I want to move from this baseball, and then you did it, all right? So it seems like every time you basically you act on instinct, you're not fulfilling your choices. That's what it seems like.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think so. Remember, and this is where floating choices comes in again. Remember, choices can float. I feel like, I mean, this is what really gets really interesting about floating choices, and I talk about this in my paper. You have to make a decision in your life, hopefully as early as possible, to say, I am making the deliberate choice, the mental choice, that I want to live. Because if you don't, everything that happens afterwards, all those reflexes when you save your life, you will hate yourself for it if you don't want to live. If you did want to die.
Yeah, that's the other thing I was gonna say. In that case, which one's more important?
What's more important, mental choices or physical choices?
Yeah, because like, can you just not satisfy either in that case, or?
Yeah, it can go both ways. You can have a physical choice satisfied with no mental, you can have mental with no physical. The importance is that there has to be a synthesis between the two. So there has to be a point in your life where you decide, I want to live. Let's say you decided at 8 years old, and then when you were 32, a baseball or something was flying in your face, and then you moved. That satisfied the choice you made when you were 8 that you wanted to live, because they floated for all those years over some period of time. If you made this, and then to give weight to this, I talk about the opposite effect. Let's say you made a decision that you wanted to die, and then you saved yourself, you would be unhappy. You would be unfulfilled. And I think that's a real thing that happens to people. I mean, it happens a lot. I think there are people who make a mental choice to die, and they don't. And this is a really touchy topic, and it's already kidding. But there may people make a choice to die, and then they can't. They didn't carry it out. And I actually have to, it's kind of like biting the bullet on this. I have to say, yeah, they made an unfulfilled choice. Doesn't mean that they can't remake a new choice and say, I want to live, and then continue to go on. That'd be wonderful. And this goes to the whole point. We should inspire people to do those kind of things.
Yeah, okay, well, one, just to ask about what you just said, and then I had my own independent question, but what happens, like, in the case of someone mentally choosing to die, or, like, choosing that they would like to die, and you said, like, oh, they don't carry it out, then they're unfulfilled. What if they do carry it out, but it's not executed properly? Like, you know, there's stories of, like, people jumping off of bridges and they don't die. They're supposed to have fulfillment because they've achieved both of those things. But how? Because some of them are still upset. They're like, ugh, I should have died.
And this is where it goes, and you came a little bit later, I was talking about the difference between fulfillment and experiential feeling of fulfillment. I want to keep, you guys already heard this probably 3 times. So, fulfillment, I like to think that fulfillment exists outside of how you feel. And then to give an example, I like to think that there are lives you can live that are generally, you're upset and you're unhappy and you're dissatisfied and you're displeasured. You lived a terrible life experientially, but you could still live a well life. Namely, in virtue of the fact that you fulfilled it. So everyone heard what she said. She said, imagine if you made a choice to take your life or to sacrifice your life for some cause, like some just cause, and then it was carried out and you didn't die. I would say does this choice still fulfilled? But maybe the experiential, maybe whatever the case, the specific situation, experientially, you like, ah, crap, I didn't die. Yeah, but you still made a physical choice to try. So you actually fulfilled your choice.
Okay, and then I also have
Contribute to your well-being.
Yeah. for like going back to the cake question about like choosing, or the cake scenario, like, oh, you want a piece of cake but you choose not to, so you're not fulfilled. Can you have like situations, like can humans achieve fulfillment, like greater fulfillment by not doing something? Like say that, you know, the person wants to eat cake but then they end up not doing it. What happens if they're also happen to be trying to lose weight? So they would like the cake and they're not being fulfilled, they're not fulfilling the want to eat cake, but they're achieving a greater fulfillment of losing weight. Yeah.
Yeah. This is what I was talking about, calculation. How do you calculate these things? How do you calculate fulfillment? How does it work? Is it like there needs to be more instances of fulfillment quantitatively than less? Is it that some have more weight than others? Like some choices have more
More
than
weight
others?
than others, a weight loss.
I end up rejecting
Hilarious.
that, because I think fulfillment of choices exists in abstract, separate from the particulars of the choice, if that makes sense.
Okay.
But I answer the weighing question by saying, the weighing question is really difficult. Let me just briefly open it up by saying that. I also, in my paper, I explain the different conceptions you can have of how to weigh, and I leave it open to you to choose.